Hey everybody, it's John Cruz here at Worldwide Auctioneers, and we are here to talk to you about the very special 1935 Delahaye that will be selling at the Scottsdale Auction coming up in just a few days, and we're looking forward to seeing you there. We are here with the car's owner, Sally Perkins. And Sally, it's been great to spend time with you and get to know you and learn more about this car, which is a pretty special car. We want to just spend a little time talking about it and just sharing a lot of the history and the process that you went through to be faithful to the accuracy of restoration, but also to be able to bring this car to life for everybody, because I know it has been a special car for you, and anybody that comes in contact with this car has a huge impact on them. And that's the thing that comes to mind, just the visual impact and the historical impact, I think, is spectacular for this car. And so I'm excited to have you share with everybody that's going to be able to watch this about the car that you have actually given a special name to.
Dela.
Which is great. It's perfect. Makes sense.
It's just easier to spell it a quickie than Delahaye.
Absolutely. Now, can you maybe share with us a little bit about what attracts you to this car and Delahaye in general?
Well, when I was a girl, I was standing on the streets of Palm Beach, and what drove past me was what looked like a classic car, but was just a fake restoration. But I thought, oh wow, that is fabulous. Later, I met my husband, Gene Perkins, who's an avid Packard collector. So I jumped into the world of classics, and I mean, there isn't anything better in my opinion. Part of that is the Delahaye, that car was taken in as a classic, and because I was able to study in France for a while after I got out of high school, I just fell in love with the car. And we were very fortunate to find the Delahaye in 2000 when we bought this one.
When you got it, you knew you got a Delahaye, you knew it was a beautiful car. You didn't quite know everything about it though, right?
We knew very little about it. And yes, we knew it was a Delahaye, and it was a very pretty car. So it wasn't until later that I started to delve into exactly what this car is, and then the rest is history.
You came to a point where you had to really determine, like, hey, what are we going to do with this, and how would we do it? And so tell us about that process. Like, how did you arrive at the process you ended up going through?
Sam Mann was at an auction one year at Pebble Beach, and I thought I need an expert. So I asked Sam who I should contact who could actually talk to me about this Delahaye. And he gave me the name of 𝗦𝗹𝗆𝗆, who is a long-time historian for Delahayes, but also, more importantly, for Figoni, and worked with Claude Figoni back in the early 90s to try to find all of the Figoni bodies and to establish where they all are, and I think there were 100 of them they were looking for at the time. So Mr. 𝗏𝗆𝗆 is deaf, so everything was done via internet, and it just sort of unfolded from there. His daughter lives just outside of Philadelphia, so I asked him, he came over for Christmas one year, and I asked him if he had time, would he fly to Indiana and take a look at this car? Well, initially when I contacted him by email, he wasn't very interested, but he was kind and he was, cordial. And then it was when he came for Christmas that year that he did in fact come out and look over the car, and he was everywhere on that car, under it, over it, through it. He was very, very interested in it and took pictures and made notes and then went home. In February, which would have been 2012, out of the blue, I get an email from him, and he said, I need for you to take some measurements for me. And then it all just began. And he said, Sally, I truly believe that this is the lost Figoni car from 1935, but we need to do a lot more research on it. So that's what started the whole thing. And it piqued my interest, and before you want to sell a car, you want to know exactly what it is anyway. We knew it was a Delahaye. We didn't know if, in fact, if it were Figoni 𝗏𝗏𝗏, what the body maker was.
Well, I'll tell you what, it always is a smart thing to do to go to the source, and Andre, of course, has been as close to Delahaye as anybody in the world, and so that was the right place to be, which you're a smart person and you usually end up making the right decision, which is great. At that point, what did he ask you to do?
Well, I had to take measurements, headlights, the whole 9 yards. I had to send pictures. It was pretty extensive. And when he said to me, I truly believe I know what this car is, then we had to make a decision. If we're going to restore it, will we keep it here in the States? And I was the one who said to my husband, no, it's going to need everything French, authentic. I want to send it to France to be restored over there. So I told Andre, I said, before you do anything whatsoever with this car, I want you to go over it with a fine-tooth comb, and I want a whole bunch of people to actually look at this, and let's make sure we know what it is. Mm-hmm. So that's what he did.
And who are some of the folks that he connected with to go through that process with him?
There were 5 men, a gentleman named Roger Tanguy, another gentleman, Bernard Brulé, another gentleman, Jean-Luc Bonnefoy, who actually owns the restoration shop where it was done, Jean-Paul Tissot, who's president of the Delahaye Club, and Andre. And they took door panels off and they took everything out, and they spent a lot of time, especially going through the engine and the measuring again from the inside and the firewalls and all of this. And they all gave thumbs up and agreed they're pretty sure that this is the 1935 Figoni. And they based a lot of that on the fact that Figoni always painted in white the numbers of the body on the inside of the door panel, and this was 566. Not only was it the lost car from 1935, but it happened to be the car, according to the records, that appeared at the Paris Salon Show in 1935.
I mean, that's just incredible to have a car that many people didn't know where it was, maybe it was lost, and through you all finding it and then saying maybe we should actually make sure we know what we have, to be able to discover that. It's a great thing for the car, it's a great thing for you guys, but that's a pretty special thing for the collector car hobby, to be able to find and discover a car like that and to bring it back to life, which is really what you and the team you put together have done.
Well, it was really exciting, and I did make a trip over there to look at the work that was being done. It's kind of interesting, though, John, when a collector finds a barn find, it just has to be the most thrilling thing in the world. As in the case with the Delahaye, it was already restored, very pretty, dark brown car. But again, we just simply didn't know if there was anything extraordinary about it. And that's what we wanted to check, if we were going to restore it. And then these 5 men said, this is it, this is the one. And it was lost for all those years. Figoni, at that particular time, before he joined with his finance person, Falache, he built 4 cars. He was very much in love with the Art Deco everything. And he wanted a swoop. They were into trucks at the time, and he wanted a swoopier car, and he had applied for a patent with a disappearing top, soft top. So there were 4 cars built in 1935 that had those features that he particularly liked. This is the only one remaining that we know of. And it was the first 1935 Cabriolet, the first one to have Figoni's patented disappearing top. It was just kind of a miracle that we discovered her. The puzzle all came together beautifully with those 5 men who were prominent in their fields.
Well, in this car representing what Figoni wanted from an Art Deco standpoint, really launching him into what we know of the Figoni name and their partnership. This is an extremely historically significant automobile.
It is, and of course, obviously very rare. The cars then through the years following that got a little swoopier and a little more radical and a little crazier with lines and what have you. But this is the true first beginning of the Art Deco style that Figoni really loved and wanted to elaborate on. And so it's the start.
The car was completed. How'd you feel when it was done?
Well, it was gorgeous. We were able to find the very precise exact yellow and the precise exact black. And that's what it was.
Following that, you brought the car back here to the States and you were able to take this car to Pebble Beach, to the Concours. Just tell us about that process and that journey.
Well, they accepted it immediately. It was the year they were recognizing Delahayes, and there were 10 Delahayes on that field, and I believe 4 or 5 of them came directly over from France at the time. So here was this marvelous lineup of all of these gorgeous Delahayes, Figonis. It was just like kind of wow, kind of a rare experience.
Now there's a neat historical photo of a lady that owned this car early on. Can you tell us a little bit about her?
𝗦𝗹𝗆𝗆 was her name, and it's a hyphenated 𝗦𝗹𝗆𝗆. And she was just this elegant socialite in Paris, and she bought the car and took it to the, struggling to get the exact name, it was the big show in Paris in 1936, where she won first place, by the way. So that was the first registered owner, and it was a woman, and I love that part.
Now, we talked a little bit about the impact and presence that the car has. Tell us again, how does this car make you feel when you're with it?
Everybody looks at this car. Everybody stops and stares at this car. We were applauded driving. Now, along with all these other fabulous Delahayes, driving across the grounds for those individuals who know about Pebble Beach, people applauded and cheered, and it gives you a little bit of a high, to think that somebody really appreciates this car. In a stable of beautiful Packards, completely restored Packards, when people would come into our car garage, they gravitated toward this car and said, "Oh my goodness, oh my, what is it?" And then you tell them the story about the Delahaye. It's going to be very hard for me to say goodbye to this car. It was a labor of love. It was like a scavenger hunt to try to figure it all out and make the pieces fit. Then to find all the parts, which, by the way, John, are absolutely 100% authentic 1935 parts. It was just a wonderful trip that I took through time in the past all the way up to the future, sitting right here and now figuring out what next person is going to be lucky to own this car.
Is there anything that you'd like to share with a future owner?
It's just such an extraordinary car. And the fact that it was something that Mr. Figoni in his day dreamt about with the Art Deco styling, and then actually put into a piece of art, rolling art. It was just it was the beginning of everything. And in fact, some of the gentlemen who worked on this car don't disagree with what's being said, that Figoni was kind of on a last lap until he made these 4 automobiles. And of course, 𝗏𝗏 came in. That helped with the financing, but it took that financing to actually create these 4 cars. And it put him on the map again. And it just, from there, I mean, it just blew up into what today is considered to probably be one of the finest bodybuilders in the history of automobiles. So a new owner will not be sorry that they bought this car.
Well, thank you, Sally, for taking the time to share with everybody about the Delahaye. And we are very much looking forward to the rest of this process and to the auction. And we're going to inviting everybody to participate right here in Scottsdale, Arizona. And it's going to be wonderful. And we look forward to seeing everybody at the auction. Thanks for watching.
Thank you, John.